that was like one of those little stands in the middle of the mall, in the hallway kind, and you could buy, it was just selling pogs, and if you buy, that was like the place to get pogs, and they did not have any legit ones.
Most of the pogs in my area were sold at gun and knife shows and flea markets. They weren't in the comic shops
I did get some
stores.
at a Florida flea market, which were also not legit.
I have this very, very distinct memory of going to the Gibraltar Trade Center, which apparently is gone now, and which is weird. That was like a staple of my childhood.
I remember there were some O.J. Simpson pogs.
I was about to say, I remember specifically, there was one table.
How old pogs are.
That booth was selling only O.J. Simpson's pogs.
Wow.
Like nothing else. And one side was guilty, and the other side of the table was innocent, and they were $5 each.
I found something real good for you.
Found an Alf Pog? A Pog of the faux hammer?
No.
Because that would have been perfect. All right, let me point this at the faux hammer. There we go. It's on the faux hammer. Ooh. And illegal fireworks in Queens. All right, guys, I'm going to hit record. We're good to go.
I've also pressed the red button.
All right, everything's recording. We are good to go. Ba-ba-ba. Got more people chatting and watching this one before we even started than usual. Okay, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Go away, people.
Yeah.
Go eat dinner or wherever. I don't know what time zone you're in. Go eat and or sleep. That's a better use of your time. You have to do it at some point. Why not now?
It's Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about comic and cartoon merch. So, last night at almost exactly 3:10 a.m., someone very near our apartment put on what I have to assume was a full professional fireworks show. Because I was woken up.
Enough to be one.
It was loud enough to where I was woken up. Like, first, I had a dream. And in the dream, all hell broke loose. And it turned into a war. And I was like in a war and trying to escape. And then I kind of woke up. And it was so loud that I sat up. And it took me a minute. I actually had to think, is that a war? The fuck is going on outside? And it took me about 30 seconds to wake up enough to recognize that this was not the sound of gunfire, which, if you're not familiar, is very distinctive. It was the sound of a shit ton of fireworks. Like, holy crap, this was a lot of fireworks. And this went on for like a half hour. So I laid there for a half hour. I didn't call the cops, one, because fuck the cops, but two, because this has been such a problem in Queens lately that probably thousands of people had already called them. There was no point in me calling them.
It's basically the same problem we discussed with the fart cars, right? Is there a certain
both of these things started last year during COVID.
No, they've always been around.
Well,
the fart car started before we were alive.
Well, so I guess the difference is the fart cars started becoming a lot more common during the quarantine.
Yes, there has been an upscaling in an escalation, right, in these things in recent times, past couple years, but they've always been a thing. They're not new.
But the fireworks, there was something that happened because it wasn't just in New York; it was all over America. All summer last year, people were freaking out about illegal fireworks everywhere. Best I can tell, something happened where a lot of really cheap illegal fireworks made their way to the U.S. and people could just get them. And it turns out if it's easy to get illegal fireworks, people use them, which honestly, when I was a kid, we went through a lot of hassle to get illegal fireworks and enjoyed them mightily. If they were as easy to get when I was a kid as they are now, I would have been a problem for my local community.
Yeah, I mean, people in our neighborhood growing up had them, but they were, they didn't have that many, right? They'd be like, on their way home from whatever state, they would stop at the fireworks store. They bought, like maybe one or two of those boxes full of random stuff, like the little cardboard tank or, little
No, we would go down to
towers,
Tennessee and get mortars and bottle
that spins
rockets
in the street.
Yeah, we'd go down and get like the dangerous good stuff from the South and bring it up every year.
Yeah, but they would get like one box of good of stuff,
Yeah,
and that
no,
was it.
with
They wouldn't,
our
like,
big
they
illegal
wouldn't fill the entire back of their a truck with like an arsenal.
Yeah, our big like illegal fireworks shows when I was a kid were like 2 mortars and about a half hour's worth of bottle rockets,
Right.
and then we'd shoot Roman candles at each other and go home. Like it wasn't
Or
like this.
for example, like someone would come and they'd have a bunch of like the tiniest fireworks, the ones on a string, right? They'd have like
Yeah.
a shit ton of those, and then it'd be like, yeah, I went and I was able to get fireworks from out of state. Look at all these. I bought a million of the cheapest firecrackers and one M80, and you would fire all the little guys,
Well,
and then you would make a small hole in the backyard with the M80, and that was the highlight.
see, most M80s were fake. I found like a lot of things that were called M80s were not, because if it was a real M80, it's like an eighth to a quarter stick of dynamite, depending on how you look at it. Like old M80s.
Regardless of whether it was an eighth, how big of an explosion it was big enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, what we'd do is we'd take an M80 and we'd put it in a garbage can that was upside down and launch it into the air in the woods. Like that was our toy. Anyway, so that happened, and I'm a little tired this morning because I got woken up for a half hour at 3:10 a.m. They've never been loud enough to actually wake me up or bother me because I don't mind them that much, but they must have been like on our street or like right next door. So yeah, that was fun. In other Rim-only opening bit news, I just want to briefly tell the story of Glamdring the Faux Hammer.
Okay, you and your faux hammer.
I fully admit I'm the only person on Earth I think who finds this amusing, except for the person who made the original. In 2012, I can't believe it was that long ago, the Hobbit movie came out. It was pretty good because it had the songs. I really enjoyed it. The second Hobbit movie was terrible, and didn't even bother watching the third Hobbit movie. I
only saw the first one, which had good and bad points, and then I didn't watch the other two.
Yep. I found it funny that you didn't realize there were 3 of them, and also
I thought there were only 2.
there should have only been 1 because the first movie, maybe 2 at most, because the first one ended when they all get picked up by the eagles in the trees with the fire. Which
I see it is the books. There were 3 Lord of the Rings books.
So
right?
3 movies.
We could talk about Tolkien stuff, right? How they were like, you can.
We ever done a show on Tolkien?
I don't know. It could
That'll be a Thursday
books or whatever. But the point is, there were 3 Lord of the Rings books. There was 1 Hobbit book, so there should be 1 Hobbit movie.
But the first Hobbit movie got like 4/5 of the way through the book, and then they made 2 more movies somehow.
I mean, it could have been 1 long movie.
Yep, or maybe 2.
The Hobbit book isn't any longer than a Lord of the Rings book.
Yep. But the real sin was there wasn't any singing in the second 2 movies, which was just like, why even make a Hobbit movie if you're not going to put all the songs in there? Like, come on.
Yeah, you sort of, that was the one, that singing, the beginning of the first movie was like the only part that actually captured the feeling of the Hobbit book, and then it's like, okay, they're trying, I can see what they're trying to do, and then they abandoned it. It's
when
like,
they sang the crack the pots, crack the plates and bang the pots or whatever, that song, I got legit fucking excited. And when they sang that Misty Mountains song, I got chills.
They should have kept that going, that feeling going for the whole fucking movie, and then that's the whole movie.
Yeah, you didn't give me any tra-la-la-la-lolly here down in the valley. Like, what the hell? But almost immediately after The Hobbit came out, someone, who is now gone as far as I can tell, made a YouTube video, but that they just called Faux Hammer, and it was basically the video that I'm going to link to, because I found it really funny. No one else did. I think I even linked to it on the GeekNights. In fact, I did. I linked to it on the old GeekNights forum long ago. It disappeared. It got taken down for copyright at some point. And the YouTube account that uploaded it also got taken down. And it was just gone. It is, as far as I can tell, I would love if someone could find this for me or find the person who made the original. It disappeared within a couple years of it being made back in like 2012. And every now and then I'd remember it, I'd want to reference it or bother someone with it, and I couldn't find it. So yesterday I was like literally playing a Blades in the Dark game, And I remembered it again because I wanted to reference it. I searched for it. I couldn't find it. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to remake this thing from memory. And I remade this video as shot for shot as I could from my memory. It's 36 seconds long. And I uploaded it to YouTube. So I have recreated a piece of the internet that was gone. And
probably inaccurately because your memory.
yeah, but I think I got it as close as I possibly could. I hope against hope I can find the original and see how good my 2021 memory of this 2012 video that was also stupid shit posting that was made for me and me alone. How accurate that was.
That is a common fun activity I see people doing. I see people doing stuff like draw Pokemon from memory.
Yep.
It's like how good is your memory? Draw Pokemon and then look, and then when you're done, you look and you're like, ah.
Yep.
You know?
But it's also hard because, as we know with the Mandela effect, it is very easy to have a very clear memory of something that is just not true. You can remember things that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can watch Glamdring the Foehammer, and if you don't find it funny, well, yeah, I made this for me.
Okay.
All right, so you got any news? It is anime, manga, and comic day.
Yeah, so there's this auction company, Heritage Auctions, right? They got a janky old kind of website, but they run legitimate auctions. They're trying to make money. They're an auction place. They're exactly what you think they are, right? It's the kind of place that would, you imagine this place being run by like a 90-year-old guy selling coins and stamps. That's the kind of deal it is. But they got this auction that just started. It's got maybe 17 days left, like a couple weeks left. And it's full of all sorts of anime and animation stuff. Mostly cells, but not just cells. Other stuff as well, including like some action figures and some all kinds of stuff. And it has material from things as old as like, Tetsujin 28, Astro Boy. I saw even one like, ancient manga from 18 something, right?
All right.
And also it's got like Simpson cells, Peanuts, Great Pumpkin cells. It's like Evangelion cell going for a bunch of money already. Like there's all the variety of stuff in there, and the quality level is like, usually when you look at the cells on sale like a convention, it's like, the back of someone's head. It's like, it's that kind of stuff, right? Almost all of these are like, whoa, really? Where the hell did you get that from? It's like, I don't know where this collection came from, but it's on sale and you can bid on it. And my strategy is going to be, I'm not paying like $100 for a piece of plastic with some paint on it, no matter who painted it or what that art is.
What did I pay? Because I have one irresponsible Captain Tyler cell that's really good, but I recall paying what felt like a lot of money for it at the time.
But hopefully some of these there's so many items in this auction. I'm wondering if it's possible that like some of them will go unnoticed and I can be like $1, whoop, and just snatch something that no one cares about, right?
Yeah, I feel like you gotta wait till there's like 2 days left.
Yeah, at the end of the auction, I think the way it works is that some of the items go for live auction, which happens, I think, in person and on the phone and on the internet. But some of them don't. Some of them are just like, no one cares about these, so it's sort of like internet only. And those are the ones that you might be able to sneak out of there for $1, because every single item started at 0. Even the ones that are now at like many hundreds are all started at 0. So.
Some of them are still at 0 and are pretty great.
A lot of them are still at 0. So
oh shit, this is a really good Sailor Stars cell.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that's like, whoa, but there's so many items. Like I went through every single item and you can pick, you basically watch the ones you care about.
All right, the Ava 01 losing its shit is already $400. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. I followed that one yesterday. And then today I got they send you an email that's like, every day you can have a thing that's like a report on all the things you're watching. Yesterday it was $0. Today it was $500. I'm like, unwatch.
Yep.
The end. There's a perfect blue cell in there.
Yeah, it's interesting because cells from anime are such a they really only existed for this brief span of time, and that's it. Like there won't be more. No one's ever gonna do this again.
I mean, there might be like one thing here or there, but Anyway.
Yeah, I got a few.
I wish they would auction off like, hey, the actual files on our computers at the animation studio, right? But
ooh.
And then it's like, yeah, if you want to share if you want to share them on the internet after you buy them, that's on you. But they're not accessible on the internet. Clearly, they're on our hard drives at our studio. We'll sell you a copy of our like Photoshop file, right? We're only selling it once. No, you don't need NFTs and crypto bullshit, right? Just be like, hey, we have these files on our hard drive. We'll sell you the PSD. We're only gonna ever sell it one time. We promise. We'll sign a contract with you.
Yeah.
Right? We'll send you the Photoshop file and we'll never sell it again. And now it's yours to do with what you wish, right? That kind of thing.
Yep. Thing is, actually, now that we've rearranged the room, the few cells that we own, I'm getting them nicely framed and we're going to put them up into a thing with them because the only reason to own one of these cells is if you're going to display it and show it to people.
I have this space back here behind me to the right that is strangely, conveniently like regular movie poster size. But I gotta choose one. I have some, but also I could buy a new one. Obviously, I wouldn't buy an original one. I would buy like a reproduction of one. But there's so many choices. It's hard to pick just one to go in there.
Yeah. So in some other news, I'll do a brief geek bite on this. While it is a live action show, it is an adaptation of a comic that I actually didn't finish reading, even though I was really excited about it. We even talked about it on Geek Nights. Jeff Lemire, made famous. Well, I was about to say famous for Essex County, but I suspect that is the thing he's actually least well known for.
Yeah, no.
Jeff Lemire is just a creative powerhouse, and Sweet Tooth, a comic about a hybrid deer boy in a post-apocalyptic world. I read the very beginning of it, and it was really good. And
I read the first couple volumes. I have all the volumes except for apparently a newer volume.
There's one more volume. It'll finish in August.
Yeah, it's called Sweet Tooth Returns or something that I didn't realize was coming out. It's just coming out now, right? Yep. How many years after the original comic ended? I have all the 6 original volumes. I just haven't read them all, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to watch the show.
So I watched a couple episodes of the TV series on Netflix. So far, it's real good. And what I appreciate about it the most is I just learned today they make the kid really cute instead of sort of gangly and weird looking like in the comic. Like the hybrid kids are just really cute.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But 2, the ears are prosthetics. They're not composited. It's all practical effects, which is kind of cool.
No, I mean, at least for that part of it.
Yeah. And 3, it's a kind of heavy adaptation. Like from what I remember of the beginning of the comic, this leaves a lot out and focuses on different things. And that actually gives me a lot of hope because usually if a TV show, like an anime adaptation of a manga, for example, is just exactly one-to-one the manga or the comic, those tend to not be that great. And I usually would prefer to just go to the source rather than read the adaptation. Like the Death Note anime, compared to just reading the Death Note manga.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dilemma when you're adapting something, right? Which is why I'm usually like, stop making adaptations, just make everything original. Then you don't have this problem. But anyway,
but if the adaptation is loose,
when you make an adaptation, if you just adapt something 100% perfectly, true to the original or whatever came before, right? It's like, why even bother? It's like I just pick one of the choices, right?
Well, like Urasawa's Monster, that manga is like one of the best comics I've ever read. And the anime is just that, but not in the original format.
Yeah. And you could also go the route where like you change everything up. But the problem is a lot of times people change everything up and it's like, you ruined it, right? You went, right? You have to, when you're adapting, somehow change things up and not ruin it at the same time.
Yep.
Which is, difficult.
Now, in my experience, like as a reader of things and also working with creative people, I feel like a general rule is the best adaptations are where the original thing wasn't that great, but there was good stuff going on, and someone takes that and then adapts it and polishes the parts that were good and leaves out the parts that were meh, and it ends up diverging further from the source material than a lot of adaptations, but often can end up being better than the original, or at least complementary to the original.
I always say the best, I think I probably said this before. I say it often. I must have said it on the show at some point. The best adaptations are usually when you adapt Broadway or theater to movies, right? Because you don't have to change much, right, at all. And really what you're doing is you're just replacing the single stage with, the limitations of having sets on that.
Though, Les Mis, that movie...
I don't think I saw Les Mis the movie. I just saw it in in an actual Broadway theater.
Phantom of the Opera, the movie.
I didn't see that either. I just watched Phantom of the Opera in the theater.
All right, well, what's a Broadway thing was turned into a movie that was good that you have seen?
Cabaret.
Okay,
It's like legendary
yeah.
movie. West Side Story is a legendary movie. I mean, there's just so many. Chicago.
Yeah, but I guess I
movie.
can think of an equal number of counter examples. But
I'm not saying it's 100% guaranteed, right? I'm just saying.
yeah, but so far we get like a 50-50 hit rate with our anecdotal, not comprehensive.
If I bring up my powers of Google, I could probably vastly increase the hits.
Yeah, but I suspect I could vastly increase the misses. The thing is, I couldn't use Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark because that was a Broadway thing made from Spider-Man, so that doesn't count. Anyway, what I will say, because I don't want to try to trick you again into turning a whole show into a news roundup, but Sweet Tooth seems like it's adapting enough and leaving behind details enough to focus on interesting things to make a pretty good show. And so far, the first season is only 8 episodes long, and what I've seen, I've liked.
I saw the trailer.
Yeah,
good.
It just looks great. In some other news, so one, if you didn't notice, Netflix is for real making a Cowboy Bebop live action series. Like, that is actually happening.
This isn't one of those where we always, it keeps getting brought up but never actually finished, and you don't believe it's going to really happen. Like, Ava live action, never going to happen. Akira live action, not going to, right? These things that people have been trying to do for a long time and never happen, and it's just like, whatever, right? Why are you even bothering with that nonsense, right? Or it's not one of those things where they do it and everyone just wipes it out of their mind because it was so terrible, which is it obviously going to be from the beginning, like Ghost in the Shell live action, right? Which I didn't even see.
Yeah.
And I forgot existed till very recently.
Yeah, it sucks because I feel like the best case scenario for a live action remake, because this is a special situation. Like, Cowboy Bebop is a phenomenal standalone work. This is like if you're a gamer nerd, Chrono Trigger, like no one made anything like it before. No one successfully made anything like it or better than it after. It kind of stands alone. Cowboy Bebop very much stands alone for a lot of reasons that go listen. We probably reviewed it back in like 2006. So.
Right. Regardless, I feel like what's the reason to do this? I don't feel like
I can think of, there is a very, very good reason to do it because someone believes they will make money.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this doesn't need to be made, but the news about it is actually a very enticing news.
Yep. Yoko Kanno. One of the greatest composers of like modern music. Like, Yoko Kanno is a very important person if you somehow don't know who this is.
The person who made the music for the original, which is a very important part of the original. It probably would have been like a B show at best without that music. Has been hired to make the music for the live action remake. They could have just reused the music.
I feel they could have reused it straight up.
Yeah, just reuse it directly. Why even bother? Anno made Shin Godzilla, and he just reused the music from Ava. He didn't make new music, right? The same timpani, whatever track that is. But yeah, they're at least getting the original composer to just make more music, and it's like, all right. I guess that's something positive, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It makes me want to hear the soundtrack to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much down for anything Yoko Kanno does. Like, it's just interesting to think, too, that, like, Cowboy Bebop was such a phenomenal score, irrespective of being a phenomenal show. It was, like, this intersection of music and writing and acting, and, like, everything came together. But, like, Escaflowne, that was Yoko Kanno music. Ghost in the Shell, like, Standalone Complex. Yeah, all that biz, a lot of Yoko Kanno in there. So, I'm still not confident that this will be good. I feel like the best case scenario is that it is not so bad that it taints the legacy of Cowboy Bebop somehow. Like, that it somehow is moderately well received.
I don't think that. I think that tainting the legacy is like not a concern for pretty much anything, right? That's something that you see, fanboys saying, right? Like, oh, you ruined Star Wars by really. It's like the originals are unchanged, right? And name one thing that's legacy has been ruined right? There's plenty of things that have had shitty adaptations and have had shitty sequels or prequels tacked on.
Yep,
right?
yep.
And the legacy of exactly 0 of the good ones have been tainted. It's
The things
not a
that get
thing that
tainted are
happens.
usually because the creator did something shitty in the real world.
Yes, that can happen. But I'm saying there has never been a single quality, artwork in like any medium that I'm aware of that was tainted because of a shitty adaptation, remake, prequel, or sequel, right? If there's a good thing, the goodness of that good thing carries on, right? And I can't think of a single example of something that was actually tainted.
What'll be interesting is
Other than by what Rim said, which is, the shitty creator or something else coming out, right?
the only thing I'm curious about is will people, because there's 2 things I've noticed as we've gotten older is one, a lot of the younger anime fans performatively hate Cowboy Bebop. Like they think it's old person anime, it's
okay.
edgelord. I see young people, a lot of people
Do
haven't
you have
seen
evidence of this?
it. Go search for it on Twitter. Look at the comments of some of our older YouTube videos. But more importantly, I did encounter a lot of people in my life who wouldn't watch Cowboy Bebop, mostly people who we would not be friends with, but I encountered in other circles because they won't watch animation. I'm curious if this will get an audience of people who have never seen the original because they don't watch animation, but will watch this because it's hyped and it's on Netflix.
I mean, I don't think so. I think, if you historically, other things that have been adapted to live action have not gotten people who are like, the people who have that ingrained attitude that animation is for kids or, they only want to watch live action things.
They tend to not like good
whatever.
things in general.
They tend not like good things in general, yes, but also, there have been plenty of live action adaptations of things, and those live action adaptations have either A, not drawn in an audience of newcomers and have only drawn in an audience of the people who are a fan of the original thing, right? And B, have definitely not brought people, I'm not going to say nobody, but have not caused a massive surge of, popularity for the original thing, right?
Well, the one difference here, though, is that here it looks like Netflix is actually trying to market this pretty heavily. And I'm curious to see if they do broad-based marketing, like the generic, like put posters up in subways and shit.
Netflix would have to. Do they even have animated Cowboy Bebop on Netflix?
I don't know where you'd watch Cowboy Bebop.
Right, because that's the minimum that you would have to do is you'd have to have both of them there, and you would have to have Netflix recommend to anyone who watched one watch the other one. That would be like the start to even have a chance, right? I mean, how many people watch Lord of the Rings and or watch a Game of Thrones, and it's like sure that did increase people reading the original book, right? But it's percentage-wise pretty small, right? Even though it does cause a surge, it's not. Most people who watched the movie did not go read the book, right?
Yeah.
And
well, look at
two,
Marvel movies. So many people will think, oh, I should go read the comics. And then they find out why they don't like comics. At least those comics.
Or right. And that's the thing is and books don't have that sort of, barrier where some adults have a closed-minded attitude about, they don't have some closed-minded attitude that books are for kids, right? It's like, so you see a limited surge for books. You're going to see like no surge for animation or comics from people with that mindset. But people who don't already have that mindset, right? They might be good.
But like, I wonder how Netflix is going to market this. That's something we don't know, partly because we don't see we avoid
Same
ads.
way they market all their other stuff.
Yeah, but who will they target? What kinds? Where are they going to run the ads? Because sometimes they'll run very focused campaigns.
In the Netflix app, where they do normally.
Yeah, they also buy like Subway posters and things. Like that happens kind of often.
We'll see if it becomes Subway poster popular.
Yep. I'm also I'm curious to see when and how they market it and how well it does and everything, but I'm not actually really curious to watch it.
I mean, now I'm curious to watch it so I can hear the soundtrack.
Yeah. Maybe I can just buy the soundtrack.
Maybe it's on Spotify, or will be.
So tiny little thing.
The regular one is.
I forgot about this. This was announced in May, about a little under a month ago. But El Hazzard, The Magnificent World, the OAVs, are getting a Blu-ray remastered, like, re-release. That is a forgotten show. Like, people do not remember that show by and large. And while the TV series of it is garbage, it is not part of this, thankfully. Unfortunately, this includes both the first OAV, which is an underrated anime, and the second OAV, which is just don't watch it. It's terrible.
Right. It's when look, the what do you know? The TV series and the second OAV, and I guess are there movies? Maybe I don't know. They have not tarnished the quality of the original OAV. How about that? Okay.
Yeah. It's hard to remember like just how bad that TV show was for El Hazard. But I rarely encounter people younger than us who have ever seen, heard of, ever thought about El Hazard.
Why would they? It was it was an unpopular, minor show from a long time ago.
Yep. It was moderately popular. It was part of a boom. And I found that
I think the only reason it was popular at all is because someone bothered to license it at the right time.
But one thing I have found is over my life, whenever I've recommended someone to watch it or shown it to someone, they've always enjoyed it because I'm not saying it's great.
It's fun.
It's just it is underrated and underwatched compared to how
probably in
good
2000 something.
it is. Yeah, I'm sure we reviewed it at some point.
2007 or 8, something like that.
Something like that. But anyway, things of the day. So, you know that Super Mario Brothers movie, the live action one, the disaster.
Yes, we know.
So there is an extended cut of this movie available because if you ever read much about, I'm going to link to this article that goes into a lot of depth, but it also links to the entire movie with the extended cut. Basically, they didn't know what they were doing with this movie. Like the production was just like this nightmare, and they filmed a ton of stuff that ended up not getting included. They filmed a ton of stuff, kind of angling for this to be an R-rated, adult, serious cyberpunk movie, and most of that got cut out. Like a lot of really dire, weird stuff got cut out. So
the aesthetic of the movie is weird. Right?
The thing is, the aesthetic is actually something I love. Like the movie is bad, even though I like some aspects of what it could have been and like the style of it and the radical adaptation, to follow a theme. The reality is the movie is also boring, bad, unwatched. Like it's not worth watching. But what we've got here is for free on archive.org. You can watch the entire 2 hour and 5 minute long, completely uncut, full filming where they have spliced in everything that was edited out of the movie into the narrative of the movie.
The last thing you want to do to any movie, even a good one, is it's like a director's cut is one thing, right?
This is the Morton Jankel cut.
Yeah, just undo all the edits. It's like put all the film back together. It's like, no.
Well, because this is not a you want a 7-hour Lord of the Rings movie and there's a reason why they cut all that stuff out. Like, this is not that. Don't watch this to enjoy this as a movie. It's not better than the original movie. It's in fact worse because it's longer and that movie's bad. But because it includes all that stuff that was cut, it's almost like a historical lens into the production hell.
Someone else can watch it.
I watched a bunch of clips of it and the stuff they cut out. There's a lot of weirdly like violent, gross, and sexual stuff that they filmed that they apparently wanted to have in this movie and were told no.
Anyway, so someone named Mel Oliveira, right? Melky Curdy on Twitter. I don't know if that's a famous person I should know or something. But they tweeted 2 tweets, and these 2 tweets contain a subtitled video that's a few minutes long showing basically it's like a mini documentary behind the scenes. They go to Tatsunoko Productions where they are, back in the 80s, where they are still, drawing the movie Macross Do You Remember Love, and they're talking to the animators. Like the first thing they do is they go to Itano and he's like drawing some robot and they're like, hey, what's going on over here, Itano? And he's like, drawing robots, right? It's like they go show people painting cells, they show them photographing everything, right? It's like, whoa, what's going on? It's like this is some kind of thing to see here in color, right? So yeah, you don't see stuff like this too often. I wonder how much more material like this is out there that has just been, lost to time and space. But this hasn't been. So while these 2 tweets are still available, I don't know if it's on YouTube or anything or saved anywhere else. Maybe you know how to save Twitter videos. You should get on that.
I mean, the janky way to save a Twitter video is just to watch it while recording in OBS. Like, that totally works.
I thought about doing that, yeah.
I have done that to things before. Mostly when I need clips from an anime.
But not to the faux hammer?
Well, for the faux hammer, I just pirated the Hobbit movie, and then I pulled out the clips I needed.
Anyway.
Anyway, in the meta moment, we will be live with while it's an old topic we've done before, it is basically a brand new panel with totally different content. We will be live at PAX East Online, I should clarify, 2021 on Saturday, July 17th at 1:45 p.m. on the PAX 2 channel, not PAX 3. We're upgraded.
You know the channel. How about that?
Yeah, we're upgraded to PAX 2 with Atari game design. We're going to play a bunch of Atari games and talk like real talk game design about those games. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. Some of them are interesting. And a big difference, if you've seen our old panel on this, is we're going to talk about a lot more single-player games. In that original panel we did, we focused exclusively on multiplayer games for a reason. So we're going to talk about a lot of different kinds of Atari games in this one. Should be fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, mostly still stuck at home, but we're going outside a lot.
Book Club book is still the first book ever, first novel ever.
Yep,
right?
Not the first book,
Genji.
but the first novel.
Yeah, Tale of Genji. So if you wanna read that, you can get yourself the fully unabridged, properly translated Penguin Classic Ultimate Edition or whatever, and get reading because it's long.
Yep. I feel like my real time to plow through this book is coming soon because the beach we would go to.
You said the same thing for how many shows in a row now?
Yeah, but I've been moving slowly. It hasn't accelerated, but it's going. But the water temperature at the beach we might go to just lay and read all day has reached the minimum threshold of I can touch that water without dying. It's 63.1 degrees Fahrenheit as of today.
How many degrees?
63.1.
So are you saying if I get some 62-degree water and splash it on you, you will die?
If I jump into...
Like the Wicked Witch of the West.
So I think the way I would describe it, if you want me to actually be specific about it, is below that temperature, that is water that I will get up to my ankles in and no further. But above that temperature, I will go into that water completely and stay in for at minimum 5 minutes.
Okay, so
that's the
when
line.
You're asleep, or when you're not paying attention, I'll get a bucket of water that's more than ankle high, that's 61 degrees, and put both your feet in it, or tie it up and put both your feet in water. Anyway.
So yeah, otherwise, just keep an eye on us, our YouTube channels. If you look at my YouTube channel, I just uploaded the Faux Hammer. Sometimes we stream games. If you hang out in the Discord, Scott does it more than me, and a lot of the listener will do it sometimes. People just hanging out, being chill, streaming a game. Couple of people are watching. Really just chill, fun times. Check out the forum, all our other stuff. And yeah, the next con...
Whichever way you like to internet, we internet that way with you.
You probably won't see us in person at a con. The earliest con where there is the highest chance that we might be at in person is going to be PAX Unplugged in November. Don't expect us to... I'm not saying we'll be there or that it'll happen, but that's the first one that we're even considering right now, the way things are. But if it happens and things are safer by then, I'm looking forward to it. Otherwise, let's get right into it. We're talking about merch today, mostly around cartoons and comics.
Well, I mean, there's obviously the often mentioned phenomenon of, cartoons and comics that were created as a vehicle, right, for merch, right? Your Voltrons and whatever, right? So there's just always been this sort of extreme synergy between just like buying stuff, right? And, comic and cartoon art as a, tie-in, if not straight, reason for existence tied to those merchandise of various sorts. And even today, various anime and comics, even though they are not created, the way, say, Transformers was created solely to sell things, right? But they make most of their money from selling merch, right? They're not making their money from the actual comic or, anime itself, right? The money still comes from other things, endorsements, and right. And, I think it just stems from the fact that when if you're doing anything, doesn't matter your genre or your medium even, but if you design a character, right, that can be drawn as opposed to a real person, right? That character can now be placed on things, right? They have a logo that can be placed on things. They can be, they can suit any role for anything. They're just always available, right? For any job, right? You don't need to hire them. You just need to license them. There's various, aesthetics and symbols and sort of a visual language associated with any sort of character. It's like you just, even if you're not going for it, you get it for free. Right. And it goes even back, probably even further. But, the oldest one you think of is Mickey Mouse. Right. It's like you just slap ears on fucking anything. Right?
Yep.
Like,
I mean, that was the one, the hat, the Mickey Mouse hat. It's just 2 black orbs and a half orb. And that's it. It's a yarmulke with 2 orbs on it that you wear forward. Like what?
And then, we could probably do a whole show, so we shouldn't talk much about it here. But then you have like the fan merch thing, which is, I guess it does go way back, but it didn't explode until maybe a few decades ago. Right.
It's interesting. Like you can track the kinds of merch that I cared about, like very clearly by what era of my life I was in. Like so specifically, and it's so radically different, culminating now in I don't want anything about anything unless it's a very subtle, small, usually pin or article of clothing at most.
Yeah, I mean, so like when I was a kid, I didn't have any fucking money.
But I wanted this stuff so bad. X-Men cards, like X-Men t-shirt, P-Man, everything.
Right. There were things that I liked, and the amount of merch available was not high, at least not as high as it is today.
Well, there's a 50-50. Some things I liked. The amount of merch I had access to was a cornucopia that overfloweth because it was a popular intellectual property. The only reason I didn't have it all is because my parents rightly didn't buy it all for me and I didn't have any money. But then the other half of the things I liked, there was zero merchandise. Like when I was really young, I was really into H.P. Lovecraft and Monty Python. Wasn't a lot of merch for that stuff. Not that that's animation.
Even if you were a kid who loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? It's like you can go to any store, the clothing store, you get Ninja Turtles clothes. You can go to the toy store, you can get everything Ninja Turtles, right? Video games, you can get anything, right? But you couldn't get everything because there wasn't an internet shopping, right? So like you could go on TV and you could see, okay, they got the turtle van, and then you would buy like, Leonardo, and you look on the back of the Leonardo action figure, the back of the piece of cardboard, and you would see all the turtle action figures.
And you'd see one that you don't have that you want, but then you go to Toys R Us, it's not there.
Yeah, you go to Toys R Us and it'd be like, okay, there's like 100, there's like 5 rows of Baxter Stockmans that no one wants.
Yep.
Right. And you can always get the 4 turtles. And it's like, there'd be like 1 shredder left, maybe. It's like you're looking at the back of this package. You're like, I want
the thing I always wanted was more foot soldiers because I wanted a bunch of enemies.
You just wanted to have like 20. You're watching the show, and what are they doing? They're fighting like an army of foot soldiers. Like, well, listen, if I'm playing, I need like 20 foot soldiers. We had 1 foot soldier.
Yep.
It's like.
But I was a big fan of the Robocop cartoon, and we had all the goddamn Robocop toys, like those cap shooter things. And there weren't generic bad guys in the Robocop cartoon. So we ended up finding when Children's Palace went bankrupt and did a 90% off sale, which, by the way, was a terrifying mob. That was, imagine a horde of children literally destroying a building. But we found a pile of one random, like, specific villain who had a name from that cartoon. There were like 10 of that action figure. So we just bought them all for like 10 cents each. And I used those as my Robocop villains. And that was so exciting.
Okay. But so when we were kids, it's like pretty much if you slapped, the image of any intellectual property that I enjoyed on a thing.
Nintendo cereal. I ate that shit.
Yeah. I didn't, but
the Mario cartoon, I watched it and I wanted merch from it. Irrespective of merch I wanted from Nintendo, I wanted merch from that cartoon because I was a kid and I was stupid because I was a kid.
Exactly. I just wanted anything. If I went to the store and there were choices of things, the thing that had the character on it that I liked was clearly superior. I wanted that one, right?
Yep.
It's like the thing, and I'm sure that works.
Didn't matter what it was.
Today.
Like I wanted like all the cartoons I watch. Yeah, He-Man toothbrush, just give it to me. Give me 2 of them.
Yep. I see kids today. It's like they're wearing like Minecraft, sneakers. It's like it still works, right?
Yep.
So
As a kid, the thing that bothered me, I wanted clothes, but like those were the hardest things to find. Like usually Toys R Us and the toy stores wouldn't sell that stuff. Like it was hard to get like
Kids R Us.
shirt. Yeah, but they didn't have a lot of branded stuff, and usually they'd have a tiny limited selection. It was never the thing I was into at the time.
Anyway, so after that, right, there came a period, mostly towards college times, right, high school, college times, where I had fucking money. I was spending most of it on computers and stuff, right? And a lot of the places, like the comic book store was out of business by the time I was in high school.
Yep. So, by then I knew, like, as much as I wanted X-Men cards, by then I did not want X-Men cards anymore, even though they were plentiful.
Yeah, I was spending my money on like, video games, right? Things of that nature, computers, and then even when I got to college, like, comic book store is open. I can go to that again, but I was getting comics I was going to read. I wasn't, there wasn't a lot of buying stuff that didn't do anything, right? It's like, yeah, I would, there were certain intellectual properties, of comics and animation that I liked. I remember there was a Voltron comic that came out in the early 2000s. I have every issue of, right?
Yep.
And it was okay, but I bought it. If it wasn't a Voltron comic, I wouldn't have bought it, right?
But yeah, I wasn't buying like tchotchkes or toys. I was buying
I was in the early anime cons, like 02, 03, right? It's like we had suddenly opened this world of like, oh my God, the merch for these things is actually available here and nowhere else in this country, at least. I finally have access to it and money. So I did go on like a mini spree of like buying.
We both did. But that's actually where we didn't want to talk about the fan stuff, but that was where the first time where I encountered a unique phenomenon that I never encountered in my life around the toys and merch I wanted for cartoons and comics. I wanted whatever shows I was into, because I was watching anime a lot at that point in my life. And I wanted, like, high school onward, I wanted merch from the anime I was watching specifically. But when I went to anime cons, they tended to only have merch from shows from 3 to 4 years prior that no one cared about anymore.
And then it sort of switched up and it became shows that were the brand new hot shows, right? And I wasn't watching those.
Yeah.
I didn't like them as much. I didn't like them enough to buy merch from them.
Yep.
Right?
But I also had this changing relationship of what I wanted out of merch. Because as a kid, merch was like kid brain. Like I just wanted it for no particular reason. Like,
yeah,
I wanted,
even if something was free, I'd be like, okay, I'll take it. I don't even care what the
free
hell
poster. I had so many free posters that I threw away before I went to college.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just, anime comics merch. Like I would go to like a kid's bar mitzvah or some shit, right? And they would give away like inflatable saxophone and like, plastic top hat and all sorts of stuff. And I was just like, yeah, give me all that stuff. And I was like, woo, free stuff. And then when I got home, that stuff lasted like a couple days and then it was in the garbage.
Yep.
Right?
But then I hit this era where I didn't want toys because I wasn't playing with toys anymore. And I didn't want crap. But what I wanted was social currency and ways to display my fandom of these cartoons and comics to other people. I wanted things like wall scrolls. I kind of wanted some of those busts and things for a while, but thankfully I couldn't afford them. Little plastic figures to line up above my computer, like that kind of crap. T-shirts, pins, buttons. But that was the era where the thing, for whatever reason, all the cartoons and anime and comics I was reading were never the things where official merch that I wanted was available in the US. And it was too expensive to import. So I tended to buy mostly bootleg illegal stuff made by nerd fans in the artist alleys because they tended to be making unlicensed merch for the things where there was no easily accessible official merch. There was like a weird golden era of that specific phenomenon.
I think also what happened is, a lot of the things I bought is I have like a couple sacks full of various plastic figures of different kinds, right? And some of them are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess in the college days, I was putting them all up on the shelf. Like, oh yeah, that's so cool, right? And in the Beacon days, I still had them on the shelf. It was like, all right, they cool, right? And then it was sort of like, I didn't feel like, that display was a cool display anymore, even though I still thought some of the figures were cool.
But it was it was always sort of cluttered. And more importantly, that shit would get dusty, and I was unwilling to dust it.
You got to dust it. You either got to put him in that glass case that everyone has.
I was about to bring up the glass case because that was the moment. My specific moment was I have all these plastic figures, and they look awesome, but they get dusty. Oh, I should put them in a plastic case. But then I imagined having a plastic case full of that stuff in like my future fancy apartment, and I realized that I don't want things, and I started trying to get rid of all my things, and the only merch I want now.
I don't need any more of this shit, right? And I already had learned my collecting lesson long ago with like Magic the Gathering, whatever, right? So I wasn't doing it for collecting, and the purpose of a lot of this stuff was displaying, and I'm like, well, I'm not displaying anymore, and so now it's like at the point where even if there is some sort of character or something that I really like, right? It's like even my fucking favorite, right? It's like if it's not on a quality thing that I'm going to use, then I'm not interested, right? I could see 2 t-shirts and like one of them has, I don't know, Spider-Man 2099 on it, right? And another one is just an amazing plain t-shirt. It's like, give me the amazing plain t-shirt, please. It's a better t-shirt. Right? If you're going to give me a t-shirt that says something on it, it's got to be a good t-shirt first.
That was that for so long, I'd wear any goddamn t-shirt, like a lot of people who are in their early 20s do, and late teens. And then I learned better. The nicer t-shirts fit better and work better. But for the longest time, any t-shirt that had cartoon or comic, especially cartoon intellectual property on it, tended to be the big ugly square print on the garbage tier, like Hanes cotton black shirt.
That's the thing. Is like there's Uniqlo, for example, right? They make tons and tons of t-shirts and other clothing, especially t-shirts. Lots of nerdy things printed on them. And when they make those, I go and I check them out on their website or even at the store, in the before times. And they would make ones for properties that were like my favorite fucking property, and I'd look and all the designs would be meh. Right? They had a whole Mario series. I didn't even buy one thing, I don't think.
Every now and then I do. Like I got that Bowser Jr. shirt.
Yeah, every now and then they'll have like one where the quality and the design is like actually tasteful and good.
Yep.
And I'd be like, I'll buy that, right? But otherwise it's like, no. But if I was a kid, right? And like Uniqlo existed when I was a kid and they had those Mario clothes, I would have won everything.
Yep, they would have had to drag me kicking and screaming out of that store possibly.
I would have been like, I got to just replace it out of my entire wardrobe with every single one of these.
And I guess the shift is it went from, and this is something that gets into like nerds, like because it's Wednesday, we'll focus on anime nerds like the weebs and anime cons. There is a big difference between wanting merch, especially clothing like that, as a shibboleth to tell other people I like this property, to find other people who also like that property, versus I like the specific aesthetic of that design and choose to wear it for that aesthetic. And I'm not going to say that is a sign of maturation or anything. Like that's not where I'm going with that. I'm just saying that I personally radically and suddenly shifted from one mode to the other mode to the point that I don't use fashion or merch or anything as a shibboleth ever. The only shibboleth of the things I'm into I will ever use are talking. And that's it. Just talking to people, conversations, human interaction, being in an event together. It's not like, oh, you're wearing a Batman shirt. I bet you're into Batman. We're going to be best friends and talk about Batman.
It's like, how many people have Batman shirts? That's a huge Batman fan, right? It's like, it doesn't tell you anything. But
the listener's talking about their changeover from I would buy the lunchbox or the thing that just has like the lazy Batman logo right in the center in a big square with no thought to the aesthetics whatsoever. Very much like the Red Dragon t-shirt.
Yep.
Because I had a mask lunchbox that was just the mask logo, like like it was basically just a shitty sticker stuck on the front of a completely generic, super cheap Folia Party red lunchbox. And I used that thing till it fell apart and loved it as a kid.
Well, I think another thing that contributes to the problem is that, you not only have, the fan merch is usually good, right? But there's also the bootleg, not fan, just bootleg merch out there that really especially for things, especially for, anime stuff, right? But it just really clogs up the marketplace in general.
Oh yeah, like I'll pick some cartoon on Amazon, which has full of bootleg crap. Let's see, My Little Pony t-shirt. I'm confident most of what I find is unlicensed crap. Yep, oh, wow, that's a lot of unlicensed crap. Oh, my God.
The aesthetic of most of it is even the official stuff, right? You would have, I remember what was the place, We Love Fine or whatever, right?
Yep.
It's like, it's like they had all these licenses to properties that I enjoyed and we were making stuff, even some useful stuff that I might have bought, but their designs were just so tacky. I was just like, no. It's like, I don't, even though you made you're the only people making a Rainbow Dash, whatever. It's like, no, that's ugly as hell. What's wrong with you?
But even worse, I feel like a lot of these are probably just stealing someone's fan art.
A lot of them, yeah. And then you do have the good ones out there, right? So like Fangamer, which puts a lot of effort into like making a
Oh, even
design.
These official ones are bad. You put the zipper right through Twilight Sparkle's face. Like, okay. That's an aesthetic.
You look at something like Fangamer even, right? And it's like, I can see that they put a lot of stuff like into the, the designs are less tacky. Like they're actually pretty quality. Some of them are subtle, right? But even though they are, good, like, a lot of them, when they stand alone, a lot of these properties are ones I don't care about, or even though it's good, it's like, it's still not something I'm going to buy or use, right, for myself a lot of the time. It's like, it has to be, there's like such a narrow window you have to hit to make something that like, I will actually like buy that and use that, and now you'll get my money.
Yep.
Right. Whereas if Fangamer existed when, even 15 years ago, right? It's like, oh no, I would have been in big trouble.
Yep. Here's an example. The Great Pretender, pretty good anime we just watched. Let's say we were younger and super into it. I don't think anyone sells like a t-shirt for The Great Pretender, but say I was like desperate to get a t-shirt for that cartoon because I really liked it. I imagine that t-shirt would just be like the characters' faces lazily stuck in the center of the t-shirt and that's it. There's no way the t-shirt would be like an asymmetric, like the background from the show without the logo and without the name of the thing. I feel like most merch for cartoons, especially in America, focuses on making sure anyone who sees you wearing it clearly identifies.
Right. And but my favorite thing, character usually, but not always character, but like my favorite aspect of a particular property will not be like the main character or the main villain or something. And so even though that property as a whole might have a shit ton of merch, it's like your actual merch options for the thing you personally care about are very, very limited, right?
Yep. Oh my God, there are Great Pretender shirts. They are, there's a bunch that are just the Freddie Mercury album cover, but just a big square in the middle of a t-shirt. Like, it's just terrible.
Okay, sure.
But there's a bunch of, there's a bunch that are literally just what I said. It's just like, there's Lawrence front and center with the words "The Great Pretender" on top.
Well, a lot of these things you're probably finding on the internet are probably just, someone has a print-on-demand factory and they've got a database of JPEGs and when you search, you land on the JPEGs and then they slap the JPEGs onto various items. Right?
Yep. Which people wouldn't be doing if there wasn't some money to be made there. Someone's buying these enough.
But the point but that didn't exist when we were younger. That wasn't a possibility, right? Print on demand was not something a normal person could access, even if they did like mail order.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's that specific.
You definitely didn't have JPEGs, right? It's like even if you tried to do it, it's like where would you get the artwork to do the print?
I mean, when I was in high school, a big thing I did on the internet was look for JPEGs or just images like GIFs or bitmaps from anime I liked. Like that was not easy to come by.
How could you get it? What was someone going to do? Like, take
a photograph of their TV from the VCR.
Exactly. So we're sort of in like a wondrous time, and that you can get merch of anything of any form, right? A mug, a hat, any sort of apparel, keychains, like literally any item of any property. It's like you can probably find a merch of it somewhere, but it's sort of a dark time, and that so little of the merch is well designed, high quality, good, useful, right? The thing that you're specifically interested in, like finding
Yep.
that perfect storm where you're actually going to spend money on a thing is like even rarer, right? It's like, yeah, there wasn't much, merch for a thing in the 90s, but if I was a kid and I went to the store, it's like there would still be like a section of the store that had something, and I could buy all those, right?
Yep.
I didn't need some.
But I guess I do feel like a lot of people who buy branded merch for cartoons are specifically doing that whole shibboleth, like show off the thing I'm into, make sure people know I am a fan of this intellectual property thing.
I think this also, the extreme nerds, right, is like they really identify strongly, like personally, with maybe a particular thing, right? Like, you meet some nerd, and that nerd is like they're all about the Flash. The Flash is their thing, right?
I remember
And so
that
it's
guy
like,
from that con who was into Silver Age Spider-Man. I think that was
Right.
his entire life. Like, I'm
So
not
it's
saying there's
like-
anything wrong with that, but
yeah, the Flash isn't unpopular, but he's not, Superman level, or he's not Spider-Man level. He's like on the next tier of famous superhero, right? He probably even got pushed down by the fact that other heroes are rising in popularity.
well,
but-
DC Comics sells a pretty good The Flash shirt. Looks like it's official.
You can probably like literally have a Flash, it's not to the Hello Kitty extent, but you could probably have a Flash everything in your house, right? Flash cups, Flash silverware, Flash clothing.
Some of these T-shirts are moderately classy too.
Flash
they're not
bed
too bad.
sheets.
Like just a red T-shirt with the Flash logo in the middle. Like that's actually a good aesthetic for what the Flash is.
They've been printing that T-shirt probably for 30 years.
Yeah, it's the same T-shirt someone had in the 70s.
It's the same T-shirt. They've been printing that forever. But that's where we're at now. So I don't know. You gotta decide how you're gonna be, right? Are you gonna maybe you're a person who doesn't find that aesthetic tacky. Maybe you're still young. Right?
You're making a value judgment there. I heard that still you slipped in there.
Yeah, I am making a judgment.
Yeah, for all that Scott complains about people talking about fashion stuff, Scott is very particular about fashion.
You don't want to look like some...
Like somewhat. Why is it wrong to wear sandals with socks? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with wearing Crocs?
Because what's wrong with it is that people like me will look down on you.
But why?
Because I will.
But why? Why do you look down on someone wearing the T-shirt that is just like Wolverine in a big square taking up the entire center of their chest with the word Wolverine on the bottom?
Well, because you're telling me that you're signaling, right, that your aesthetics, or you don't care about the aesthetics, or your aesthetic taste is so far out of line with mine that I do not have much in common with you, so I don't want to associate with you.
But I'm trying to think, other than a few Nintendo shirts that I got from Uniqlo like recently. Actually, I bought them all right before quarantine, so I haven't worn them in public much. Trying to think of the last like piece of merch I bought from any cartoon of any kind.
I mean, I guess does a
cartoon
count?
Comic?
Right? I bought some buildable Evangelion models.
I guess that counts. You're doing that. I don't do that.
Right?
I'm just thinking back.
Which are much. Yeah, it's like I'll buy those. I won't buy an action. An action figure doesn't do anything. These, I don't really actually like displaying them or looking at them that much. But building them is fun, right? I wish I could like build them and then give them, and have someone who would want them would take them.
Yeah.
But usually people want to build them. It's like after I built them, I'm like, fuck.
When I was a kid, I had like
that was fun building this, but now what do I do with it?
I was reminded one of the listeners was talking about the old iron-on bootlegs. I had a lot of Bart Simpson shirts when I was a kid, like a lot. And one time, Cedar Point made me turn one inside out because Bart said the word hell, I think, on it, or damn, or something. I forget exactly what was on the shirt.
The only thing I think I had a South Park shirt that was like a Kenny dying shirt of some kind.
I had a lot of bootleg Simpson shirts too that were just iron-ons. Yeah, the last intellectual property from a show that I got was probably like a pin from an anime con at least like 4+ years ago, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Who even knows?
But yeah, it's, for all we've said about it, right? That merch industry that's what's sustaining everything, right? That is the thing that's holding everything up, right? It's not your,
Well, it's that and advertising, cross promotion type stuff like that. There's a whole ecosystem there as well.
But it's like, people buying comic books aren't holding up comic books, right? Directly.
Yep.
People watching anime isn't holding up anime. People watching cartoon, you watching Adventure.
I mean, look at the cartoons we liked as a kid. Those cartoons were just ads to sell the merchandise, like openly, nakedly. That's what they were.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, kids watching, I guess it's over, but if you're watching Adventure Time, right, there were ads during it. That helped a lot. But, it was people buying all that Adventure Time stuff at the store that was holding the show up for how many years, not anything else. So I
do like some of the a lot of backpacks came around for a while, like the branded backpack from a show. Like a lot of people had Finn's backpack. It's
been around forever. We had Ninja Turtle backpack.
Yep.
Stuff.
But the ones more recently, like in the last couple decades, were a lot higher quality than what we had as kids. But I guess that's just how the way it goes with everything.
Qualities in some ways, that's actually weird. The way quality has changed over time, right? Is that, obviously we already discussed how there's all the bootleg, print on demand, low quality stuff, right? But if you only count the officially licensed stuff, in some ways quality has skyrocketed. There are, today the highest, like the cap on quality, like if you buy official merch for like Ghibli stuff, like that stuff is like so well made. It's like unbelievable. That's so, and it costs a lot too. It's not cheap, right? And that didn't exist. But on the other hand, people are putting out some low quality biz, and the quality of certain things has decreased over time. When I was a kid, if you went to buy like a lunchbox with a thermos, you got like a fucking metal lunchbox.
Not always. I had the plastic one where literally there's this one specific type of plastic lunchbox that came with a shitty plastic thermos and a couple other things. They were all identical, but they all had a different sticker of an intellectual property on the front.
Talking about, yeah, I'm saying before that was like the turnaround, right? It's like before that I had a metal one, right? And then those came out afterwards. The quality of the official stuff went down.
Well, look at backpacks. Right? I remember I had a branded like mask backpack. Every backpack was the exact same backpack where the shoulder straps came in toward the middle and were always too tight on your neck. Every kid had identical backpacks, but they all had different cartoon intellectual property on them. Yeah. Now, like, you get a BMO backpack, it's just physically shaped like BMO, and it's really high quality.
Yeah, but it's like, it has to do with, what was cheap to produce, what would sell, and who are the companies who own the intellectual property choosing to license to, right? In various territories. It's always different. And that's going to affect, if you give a license out to like, awesome statue maker, they're going to make like these unbelievable expensive statues. If you give a license out to just anybody, right, who knows what the hell they're going to make, right?
You get the Subway franchise of merch.
Exactly.
All right, I think we're done there. We went for a little over an hour. Is this solid?